This is your host, Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the TechOSpace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and super overjoyed to welcome our guest, Mr. Jamie Willis-Rose, who happens to be the technical specialist for the reputed company Microsoft. And Jamie is based out of Reston, Virginia, the United States of America. So, Jamie, heading on to you and off to you. So, why don't you introduce about yourself in depth to our listeners?
In depth. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be on your podcast, first of all. Hello to all your viewers. I work at Microsoft. I've been here for almost 4 years. I joined in 2021. Before that, I was a consultant for 2 years. My bread and butter, as it were, is Power Platform. That's where I really shine, and really, as I like to tell people, I wouldn't be where I am today without the Power Platform. So
All right.
I actually spent about 15 years in television before that. So this is my second career. So that's
Oh,
sort of where I am today.
oh man, that's a pretty interesting turn, Jamie, for sure. Awesome. Right. So, I mean, as we go through this podcast, we're going to get a lot of insight with respect to the Power Platform, and we're going to have a great conversation. So, at the stroke of this hour, which is 6:33 p.m. IST, let's kick off with the podcast episode. All right. Yeah. So, Jamie, would you like to give me and our listeners a complete timeline of your journey in the IT industry?
Sure. um, so starting back in early 2010s, I was working for Discovery Channel, and my boss at the time asked me if I could start researching this thing called SharePoint. I had not heard of it before that. At that point in my life, my understanding of IT was limited. I was a
Hmm.
user of things like Excel, and I was, I was a, I, I was a bit more advanced than some. I liked to write macros, so that was, I had an inkling that I could do stuff like low code, but I didn't know it was called low code at the time.
Mhm.
So I didn't know what I didn't know. So my boss basically empowered me to go learn SharePoint. Um, I was a trainer at that point. I was training people at Discovery, and so our goal was to create a repository for all the documentation that we were generating. And we were growing, expanding at that point. Our facility was adding a lot more personnel and a lot more responsibility, so we needed a way to scale. So I discovered SharePoint. I started playing around in SharePoint. I started doing things in SharePoint that you shouldn't do in SharePoint. I started hacking away, as it were. And this is SharePoint 2010, so we were still on-prem at the time.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
and so that was really sort of where I started getting my feet wet. I was doing all the things you probably shouldn't do. I was writing jQuery code. I was
Mhm.
creating all sorts of crazy hacks to sort of get around the limitations that I perceived with SharePoint 2010. And I was impressing my colleagues, my boss especially was impressed with what I was doing. But then not too long after that, my company started migrating to the cloud and to Office 365, and that unlocked SharePoint Online, which posed a whole new set of challenges. And
Yeah.
so I was learning firsthand that what I had done in SharePoint 2010 was not the best way.
All right.
And so I had to kind of rethink, reimagine, reinvent everything I had done, all the tools I had built. And I was very fortunate because right around this time, this is probably 2016-ish, they started rolling out Power Apps and Microsoft Flow, which is now Power
Hmm.
Automate, in preview. For those that remember, someday would log into SharePoint Online, you'd go into a SharePoint list, and there'd be two little buttons, Power Apps and Microsoft Flow. And I
Right.
was one of those early adopters. I was very curious about what this thing was. I started playing with it. It was still in preview. So technically it was like, I don't know what's going to happen when this gets out of preview, but
Yeah.
I immediately took to it. As I said, I had a background in Excel, writing macros, and so I had an understanding of code to a certain extent. But this was definitely different, but also the same, hard to explain, but I really, really enjoyed building apps. And so I was able to quickly adapt the stuff I had done in SharePoint 2010
All right.
into Power Apps, building Canvas apps, And as luck would have it, my company also had made an investment in the very early iPads. So when iPads first came out, my company had bought
Mm.
iPads. And so we had a platform of actual equipment that we could put apps on. And the Canvas app is kind of perfect for that. So it works really beautifully on a tablet. And so I was able to basically take my apps and put them on these tablets, allowed my colleagues to use them to do the work that they needed to do. And so it was a big success. And it was during this process, I will also add, that I started unlocking sort of the community at large. I had, of course, like many people, I discovered YouTube. Shout out to Shane Young, Audrey Gordon, a lot of the early OGs, Daniel Christian. There's a lot of people who were in the very early days of Power Apps making content, and without them, I wouldn't be here either. And so they
Awesome.
helped
Okay.
me a lot. And then from there, I went down, again, I started going to user groups. I found local user groups in DC. I discovered there was events. I had no idea what a SharePoint Saturday was, and I was like, "What's this?" And it's just stuff like that. Just sort of, it just sort of opened my eyes to the larger world. Um,
Got it.
and it was not too long, maybe I want to say 2017, maybe my timing, I don't remember the exact years, but at some point, the Power Platform World Tour, which sounds a lot bigger than it really was, but it came to the Microsoft office in Reston, and I spoke. It was my first speaking time there.
Okay.
So that really was a game changer for me, because again, I was still working at Discovery at the time, but I was unlocking a lot of networking opportunities that I didn't even know I needed. And it was there that I started building my brand, started getting my name out there. Some of the people I met that day actually ended up becoming coworkers eventually in the future. Spoiler alert. But that was, that was my entry into the larger world of Power Platform. And so yeah, that got me to a point where I was really comfortable with my brand. I was I knew I saw a path forward. And I probably would have stayed at Discovery, if I'm being honest. I like being able to tell people I worked at Discovery. It was a great company. Unfortunately, the fates intervened. They went through a couple of mergers. You probably heard about the more recent one, but back in those days, they had merged with a company based out of Tennessee called Scripps. And when they merged with Scripps, they acquired a lot of networks like HGTV, Food Network, but they also acquired a whole new IT department. And that IT department had a contract with another company, another low-code vendor called Appian. Um,
Oh,
and
Appian.
yeah, Appian. So I didn't really. I don't want to say anything too bad about Appian. Appian, I'm sure they have their value, and good for them. But at the time, I was a little disgruntled because the IT shop came in and said, "Thank you for all your hard work. We'll take it from here." And they started to rebuild my apps in Appian without me. I should add, they
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
didn't really have a use for me anymore. So that was disheartening. I had put a lot of effort into those apps, and I was really sad to see them getting rebuilt, replatformed. But then the real insult to injury came not too long after that, when they made a bigger announcement that they were actually going to leave Microsoft and go to Google Suites.
Hmm. Oh God. Yeah.
And that's really what drove me away. I decided at that point, I had spent many years, probably 4 or 5 years at this point, investing in my expertise with SharePoint and then Power Platform. It wasn't even Power Platform then; it was just Power Apps and Flow. But learning to learning these technologies, I realized I had transferable skills, and I really didn't feel like starting over with Google. And I didn't really know what I would be doing either. If once they took away my apps, I didn't really understand what value I had to bring. So I
Exactly.
made the
Yeah.
difficult decision to leave, but luckily for me, I met a lot of people in the community through my speaking at events. So it wasn't too hard. Again, a common refrain you'll hear from me whenever I talk to people about their careers. I say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's
Right.
so vital, especially these days with the way the job market is today. It's very very tumultuous. The one constant is the relationships you build. While skills are important, as anyone can tell you, you can learn new skills if you have the will. There's plenty of ways to learn new skills. What's much harder is on building that network, and that requires something that you just have to put the time in. You have to put the effort in. You have to consider it part of your job. You can't rely on that you'll just people will just know who you are just because you do a good
Exactly.
job, because the odds are, yeah, inside your current company, your boss might know exactly how good you are, and maybe your colleagues will know how good you are, but that may not help you get you to your next level, the next rung in the ladder, if you will. So definitely
Absolutely.
consider looking externally, getting your network built out, and that's what happened to me. So I left Discovery, I became a consultant. I started working for a small consulting firm, and that was my real first taste of consultancy. I didn't really understand that, but it was a good kind of trial by fire. I got in there, started meeting with customers. The first gig I got was not my favorite gig in the world. It wasn't the perfect fit, but I learned a lot, and I appreciated the opportunity I got. But it was not too long after that, maybe like 6 months or so, that I decided I needed to move on. And luckily for me, the company that I really wanted to work for and the person I really wanted to work for had an opening. And so I went and I joined Applied Information Sciences, which is also something called AIS.com. Um, and AIS hired me as a biz apps developer. Um, I had a lot of different titles when I was there. It really depended on the contract I was on.
Right.
Biz apps developer, solution architect. I mean, you name it. They gave me different titles. It seemed like every day I had a new title. But the long story was I was there to help build things for customers in the Power Platform. That was my job, and I was really excited to be there. One of the first people I met at that Power Platform World Tour, who was in my session that day, his name was Andrew Welsh. Shout out to Andrew. Andrew was a director at AIS at the time, and he was building this team of really all stars that were really just doing amazing work with the Power Platform. But he had a clear vision of what he thought the Power Platform was going to be, and I was excited about his vision. I was excited about what he saw the future holds for the thing. I'd actually seen him speak at that event, and he just kind of expanded my mind to sort of what was possible. Because again, when you're building Canvas apps on SharePoint, you have a very narrow view of what the tools
Right.
can do. I didn't have a full understanding because I hadn't played with the full platform at that point. So that kind of expanded my mind. So getting to AIS, that I spent a year there. I worked with a lot of customers, and I, got to build a lot of things. Got to, spend time in both public and private sector, and really was an amazing opportunity. And I really appreciate the folks at AIS for having me there. It was a great learning experience. Um, Continued to speak at events, continued to participate in community. And then about a year after I started there, another gentleman I met in the community at a local user group, his name was Bobby Chang. Shout out to Bobby.
Mhm.
Bobby had
Okay.
joined Microsoft during that time, and he reached out to me to let me know they were going to have an opening on his team. And he introduced me to his boss, my boss now. Spoiler. His name is Steve Winward. Again, shout out to Steve. If you don't know Steve, you should know Steve. Steve's amazing. He's got a YouTube channel as well. Steve Winward, remember that. He's awesome though, and so I got to know them even before the job got posted, which was nice. They were very very welcoming. They offered me a lot of advice, just and then eventually I did apply and eventually did get the job. So that was just really a wonderful experience. And again, I've been here since 2021, and every day is something new. My When I joined, it was called Microsoft Federal. We don't call ourselves that anymore, but essentially, I work with all federal customers. That's the team that I work on. I'm on the Biz Apps Federal Civilian team. So all my customers are U.S. federal government, and so I work very closely with these agencies and these customers. And what's different about what we do versus what, say, most people do is we're not worried about profits. We're worried about mission. So
Mhm.
that's what drives our customers. It's not about trying to make money, which nothing wrong with making money. I'm not, profit is good, but when you're talking about the government, public sector work, it's about the mission. And so that really
Exactly. Yeah.
reorients you a lot. It also gives you a lot of energy when you're doing this work because you know that you're contributing to your country, in our case. So, the work that I'm doing eventually, sometimes immediately, is going to benefit citizens. And, as a citizen myself, I appreciate that I'm doing good. And so that's fulfilling for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think that again, that brings me up to my time at Microsoft. I don't know if that's a complete timeline, but that I think is without boring our viewers. I mean, I'm rambling, but there you go.
That's a brilliant timeline, Jamie. Now, Jamie, if I would just like to ask you about this, like in brief, would you like to give me an insight of your tenure, being the technical specialist for your company, Microsoft?
Yeah. I think, well, so let's talk about the title. The title technical specialist isn't necessarily what people outside of Microsoft would call me. A lot of people might call me a solution engineer. Some people might call me a solution architect. Some might call me a pre-sales engineer. So these are all comparable terms for the kind of work that I do, depending on where you work. Again, these titles, may vary. In fact, my expect my title to change very soon to solution engineer. They made an internal announcement.
Okay.
Spoiler alert. So I will be a solution engineer by the time this post probably. But I, just to be clear, that my job is on the pre-sale side. So I'm on the sales team. That's my job. I work with sales. My job is to go in to talk to customers and be the technical counterpoint to my sales specialists whose job it is obviously to build those relationships, to look for opportunities and help drive the sales of the biz apps. So and our team sells both Power Platform and Dynamics. The only thing we don't sell is Power BI. That's a separate group
Okay.
for now. But our job is to go in there and really try to open up the imagination sometimes of our customers because they don't know what they don't know. And so they come to us. What we're really trying to do at the end of the day is just help solve their problems. So my job, like I said, in conjunction with my counterpart, is to really listen to our customers and to inspire them to think about what's possible with Microsoft. And while I'm primarily focused on business applications, we definitely don't want to limit ourselves to just one technology stack. So we try our best to make sure the customer gets the right tools for the right problems. And so we listen, and if we think that the solution requires some other piece of technology that maybe I don't have a depth on, I have amazing colleagues at Microsoft, very, very smart people. So as a solution architect, my job is to make sure we get the right tools, right
Right
pieces for
tools.
that solution.
Yeah.
And so if necessary, we do that. We reach out to our colleagues in other areas of the business who have other depths that I don't have, and we put forth our best foot forward, as it were. We make sure that we get the technology that matches their needs. And that's really, it's really about giving them that opportunity to sort of see what's possible. So primarily what I do is I build demos. So I get, in a lot of ways, I have the fun stuff. I get to build without having to worry about it working tomorrow or the day after that. Uh,
Yeah.
and obviously, I'm not saying that what I do isn't real. We are building real things. We are building real solutions. But I don't have to necessarily worry about all that you might go into if you're doing delivery. I don't have to do sprints. I don't have to do daily stand-ups. I don't have to do all the things that go with being on a development team. I've been too many stand-up calls. I don't want to talk about that. Uh, but I don't have to do any of that. I can focus on just building what I think ultimately will answer the customer's questions and just show them that this is the right path for them. Convince them that this is the right way forward, and then guide them along. And then again, we have such an amazing team. Once they make that decision, hopefully to go with Microsoft, we can hand them off to the next person in line, whoever that may be, whether it be a Microsoft colleague or a partner. someone who can continue that journey and get them to the point where they actually get the real solution built. So yeah, so technical pre-sales really is about the art of the possible. That's what it's all about. That's my main job.
That's amazing, Jamie. Now, Jamie, more interesting stuff to come alert. I mean, spoiler alert, as you were just mentioning about it, for our listeners. So, Jamie, what exactly went into the creation of organizing the Washington DC Power Platform user group? Like, would you like to give me a complete insight on that?
Yeah. So a little history lesson here. So as you all know, before the Power Platform, the different pieces of the Power Platform were kind of separate, and there really was only two really that I can name. Well, three if you count Power BI. Power BI existed, Power Apps existed, and it was called Microsoft Flow at the time, or Power Automate as it is known today. So at the time, when I was getting into local user groups, there was already uh, four user groups in the DC area that I was able to participate in. There was the Power BI DC user group, which still exists to this day. Then there was SharePoint DC, which has changed names, but it still exists. Shout out to Scott Brewster, who runs that group. There was a Microsoft Flow user group that at the time was run by Scott Shear and Melissa Hubbard. Melissa Hubbard, of course, now works at Microsoft. Shout out to Melissa. Hey, Scott, how's it going? Um, and and then there was the Power Apps user group, which was run by Amy Cisse and Anton Robbins. Anton works at Microsoft now. Amy has her own company, Cisse Solutions, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy, if I got that wrong. Shout out to Amy. She's awesome. So those user groups existed. And then there was other user groups that I didn't participate in that I didn't really understand, which was there's a whole Dynamics user group that existed, and that Dynamics user group had been around for many years, and it was run by Kylie Kaiser, Aiden Cascella, Michael Ox. There's a bunch of people involved, and it was actually three different groups. There was a group out of DC, there's a group out of Reston, Virginia, and there was a group out of Richmond, and they kind of all worked together as sort of a single entity. So I say all that as a preface because I got involved as a user, just going to the groups and going to the meetings, and then I started helping out with planning of the Flow user group, and a little bit with the Power Apps user group, and then at some point we made the decision that those two groups should just come together, and so we actually formed the Power Apps and Power Automate DC user group. I forget, we had like a crazy acronym, but anyway, we sort of merged those together. And this is all before COVID, and that's important to remember COVID. So we were still doing like quarterly meetings in person in Microsoft offices. That was sort of like, this is again when everything was still more or less in person. I was involved with the SharePoint user group. They met in person as well. Power BI DC, I did a lot of those meetups. I helped that group out as well. Then COVID happened, and COVID just kind of like just blew everything up.
Hmm.
Obviously, no more in-person meetings. Everything went virtual, as you all recall. And so what we did is that Power Apps and Power Automate user group merged with the remnants of the Dynamics user group I mentioned earlier. So Aiden, Kylie, and I took all that and put it together to create the Power Platform user group that exists to this day. And it went virtual, and it's basically stayed virtual since COVID. We basically just said, you know what, this is working for us. So every month, except for when we don't do it, most months we have a call. It's like 2 hours long, maybe hour and a half, 2 hours long, where we do a little bit of social networking and we have some sort of content. And we've been doing that pretty regularly since 2020. And we have a huge backlog of recordings. If you go to Kylie Kaiser's YouTube page, she's got all of our recordings going back, like I said, 4 years worth of content. And that user group, it works. It's not what it was. It's not the same as in person, but it is a functioning group that continues to be consistent with its content. I believe we're taking the summer off, so there won't be any calls July or August, but I imagine we'll be back in September with more calls. Um, Meanwhile, Shannon Lindsay, who helped run the Power BI DC user group, she actually joined Microsoft and then left the DC area. And so that user group, the Power BI DC group, Power BI DC user group, it's a mouthful. That group kind of went into hibernation for a while during COVID. And then post-COVID, a new group inside the DC area actually took the mantle. They actually worked with Shannon to sort of take over that group, and they've been going strong for a few years now. So shout out to Leslie Welsh and Lenore Flower. They actually just did Power BI Days DC for the second
Okay.
year in a row last week. Big event they do every year, but they also have a user group that meets regularly. They do a hybrid approach. They do some virtual, they do some in-person meetups on a regular basis. So that's great to see in person getting back out there. As I said, Scott Brewster, he renamed his group. It's no longer the SharePoint DC user group. It's now the M365 DC user group. So it's a bigger tent, bigger umbrella. But that also meets regularly virtually. I don't think he's done any in person since COVID, but we're slowly getting back to that. And then all those people that run those groups, we've all kind of teamed up to do several local events. So we've done a Power Platform Bootcamp, we've done M365 Saturday. Most recently, we did M365 Community Days. That kind of gets us back to the old school way of doing things where we actually spend a day learning, getting people back physically back into a room to do the networking, which really you can't really network on Teams. Let's be honest here. You can do a little networking. There's some people I've met through Teams that have become connections, but it's not as strong a connection necessarily as when you can meet them in person and really get a feel for them. Yeah, getting events back up and running, local
Yeah.
events. Like I said last week, Power BI DC, Power BI Days DC. I never forget the days. And next month we're doing. There's an AI event happening in Reston. Well, we haven't announced it yet, but M365 Community Days DC will be back in the winter, February timeframe, probably February, March, somewhere in there. So we're getting into this rhythm now, and we're building a community of support to help run these events. So we're nurturing the next generation, hopefully, of leaders as well. So and I forget what the original question was, but it was about the user groups. So yeah, the user groups. So yeah, the user groups still exist. They've evolved. They've morphed over the years. The people who have come and gone. Some people, like I said, have left to join Microsoft and left behind the user groups and handed them off to other people. And I hope that continues. I hope we can find next generations of people who are willing to take on the responsibility of running these groups, because they are very, very valuable. So many people have benefited from user groups. Obviously, I can only speak to the DC area, but I think you'll know if you're watching this. If you don't know this, there are user groups everywhere, and you should definitely look for them. I know my user groups tend to use Meetup.com. There's also a user group that you can find through Microsoft's tech community. And we can provide links after this. I can send them along for the description. But you can find user groups in a lot of different ways, a lot of different places. And that's really sort of a starting point if you're just getting started. Like, it's a really good place to start. And then from there, you can get involved by going to events. A lot of events are free or nearly free. Sometimes there's a small fee to cover cost. And then there's bigger events that are more, on a larger regional or national stage or international stage, as it were. And again, your mileage may vary depending on where you are in the world. And the only last thing I will say is, if you can't find a user group, maybe it's your time to start one. And if you need
Okay.
help with that, we have teams of people who are always eager to help local user groups get started, both at Microsoft and without Microsoft. So definitely, if you can't find the user group of your dreams, start it.
Started. I think, you just heard it from Jamie, listeners. If you have any idea, probably you should just get started with that. And that's a great piece of advice, Jamie. And Jamie, also, you were just mentioning about the boot camp in the year 2023, and then about the Microsoft 365 Saturday in 2024, and about the Microsoft 365, let's say, community days in the year 2025. So, and now when it talks about this gig, you are, co-organizing that. So, like, when you were co-organizing that, Jamie, did you get that jitters? Like, did you feel a little bit, nervous when you were trying to, co-organize that?
Stressed. I got stressed. That it's very stressful. I tell people all the time, I'm only willing to do these things once a year. I am not planning more than one event a year. It is a lot of work.
Right.
I support other events. You know, I supported Power BI Days DC. I support the AI community conferences that happen. My buddy Prashant is he's a machine. He does these events like 3 or 4 times a year. I don't know how he does it. Um, but I don't have the stamina for that. I can do one a year. It takes a lot of effort. Now I want to be very clear. I don't do all the work. I deliberately try as much as possible to delegate. And I encourage people out there who are thinking about getting involved. First of all, get involved with an experienced group that's already doing this now, if you can. Learn from them, learn how they do things. You know, volunteer in any capacity that they. Every event needs help. Every event needs help. So just offer your time, and even if you don't think you know what you're doing, that's fine. It's just be there, be present. So you know, for example, the most recent event we did, we had monthly calls, um, starting 6 months out. We were planning 6 months in advance, and I know from experience that 6 months is like the minimum that you need. There's some people who start a year out, like they just like they finish the event and they start playing the next version the next day, kind of thing. And that it doesn't surprise me. Like these things do take time. They do take a lot of work. It becomes a second job for most people having to do this. And so you have to kind of pace yourself. But yeah, I'd say minimum those 6 months is what you need. So if you're thinking about doing this from scratch, if you've never done one before, and I remember doing my first one in 2023, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of how not to do things. So I'll just do a comparison. So 2023, the a person reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do a Power Platform boot camp. She reached out to me in February, and we ended up doing it in April. So 3 months. Not enough time. Not enough time. Don't do yourself. That's just trust me on this. There's just not enough time to do that. But we managed. We managed. It was a good event. Things went well, but it was extremely stressful. The other thing I learned during that is I took on a lot of the work myself. I just didn't have the team put together the way I would have liked. I didn't have the consistency with the volunteers. I didn't really understand what I needed to even get the people that I needed. And so it takes a village, to borrow a line. It takes a really good team to put on these events. So if you can get a mix of experienced and eager, I would say that's what you want. You need people, you need to get people in early. You need to get people a chance to learn how to do this. So I definitely welcome people with no experience. I want them to come in. I want to get them opportunities, but you also need to have some seasoned experience, people who can help guide the process and really be sort of sage voices on those planning calls, especially, and obviously to take on responsibilities as well. So having the ability to delegate is so important, and it's people who you can trust to do the work. And that all comes down to healthy relationships that you build. And you just got, that's just part of the job. You got to build net relationships. So yeah, so that was how not to do it. Then fast forward, we did the community days. We did M365 Saturday in 2024. That was, again, we had 6 months to plan that. It went really well. Still, I did a lot more work than I would have liked. But I learned a lot from that, and we built a really good group out of that. And then the following year, we started 6 months out. And this time I was really adamant. I really tried really hard to just be the point person and just delegate as much as I could. And that worked out really well. I still did a lot, but I didn't do nearly as much as I had done. And I basically took on what I needed to take on and then delegated what I didn't need to do. And that's the key, I think, to successful organizing, is to make sure that you have a good team in place and you know who can do what. And find new people that you didn't know were out there. Like we found an amazing gentleman based out of Richmond who came in. Hello, Ellison, if you're watching. Ellison has a background in marketing, and he actually came on board as our marketing coordinator, along with several other people. It was a team effort for sure, but Ellison took the reins. He's like, I'm going to take charge of this. And we had amazing results. We sold out. We had great whatever they call it on LinkedIn, interactions or whatever. I don't know how
Interactions, yeah.
I don't speak the lingo, but he did. He understood how the stuff worked. He understood how to market stuff, and I was so grateful to have somebody who had that kind of experience and that with eagerness to participate. So finding those gems out there. Another person we found who actually lives in Alabama. Shout out to Rachel.
Hmm.
She just started coming to our planning calls, and one thing led to another. She helped us with marketing. She helped us with food. She was actually helping us plan our catering from Alabama. She was calling up, talking to vendors and stuff. She became a speaker. She flew up and actually spoke at our event. So just amazing, amazing people. And again, you don't have to limit yourself to just people in your region. You'd be surprised. Again, thanks to the power of Teams. Shout out to Teams. Whoop, whoop, you can find people everywhere. And as long as they're willing to participate in some fashion, even if they can't be there on the day of the event, if they're willing to contribute their time, take it. Take that experience that they have, take whatever they're willing to give you. And so, yeah, that was the sort of growth of that. So excited, hopefully going to do 2026 M365 Community Days. I have not announced it yet. This is not an announcement technically, but I have every intention to plan that with my team. We'll probably start kicking things off in September-ish, maybe August, September. Give ourselves 6 months, like I did last time. But yeah, I would just say, if you're interested in getting involved in these events, go to communitydays.org. That's shout out to Tom Daly who runs that. And that site is our clearinghouse. It's not an official Microsoft webpage, but Microsoft is supporting it. So it has our blessing, and that's a central clearinghouse for all Microsoft events around the world. And when you go there, look for things in your area or in geographic areas where you can go to. Again, maybe it won't be exactly near you, but something that you can travel to. And keep your eyes peeled because a lot of times these events will get posted, and then if you go to the page on the right hand side, there'll be options to for a call for speakers, so you can actually submit to speak. There's also sometimes a call for volunteers where you can actually submit to join the volunteer team, the planning team. So take those opportunities where you can get involved and do as much, and then don't overextend yourself. But I always tell people, the best way to learn is to teach. So if you have something that you really want to get deep on, speaking at an event, whether it's a big event or even just a user group, that's a chance to really grow yourself.
That's a good piece of advice, Jamie, and it gives a clear idea about how an event is formed and how do you go on with organizing a particular event. Now, Jamie, now heading on for the next one, like I'm going to there's a huge list, there's a plethora of list. I'm going to ask it like let's say on a sequence wise. So, Jamie, what was that experience of yours when you were giving a presentation? Firstly, starting with the Microsoft Federal Biz Summit. So then how did that come about?
Yes. So the Microsoft Federal Biz App Summit actually was started by my team, the team that Steve Winward runs. We started it in 2022, I believe, as a virtual event. So it was maybe, yeah, I think it was 2022. It could have been 2021. But either way, it was 100% virtual. And it was just virtual sessions. We invited customers to join us virtually, and we did it. We did a full day of sessions. It went really, really well. We were all excited about it. And the following year, we made a decision to go in person. And then we brought in some more amazing people to help us plan it. Shout out to Sarah Brooks, Jeremy Hoffman. Hey guys. She and Jeremy did an amazing job taking what was essentially a virtual event and manifesting it into a real in-person event. And that took place at our Reston office, and that was a huge, huge win. We had a huge turnout. So many customers and partners came out. It was amazing. And it was a really great chance for us to showcase what's possible in federal, civilian, and DoD. We had DoD folks there as well. And that event we expanded out from federal civilian to include the DoD folks. So it was a sort of dual audience thing we had. The following year got so big so fast that we actually had to move into a hotel nearby.
Oh.
We couldn't fit the event in our office anymore. We outgrew the office. The office is a great office, love it, good for events, but it has a limit in terms of how many people it can hold, and we blew through that limit. And so we moved to a hotel pretty last minute, actually. Again, shout out to Sarah and her team and the folks at Carasoft who came in to help us out. And we did an amazing event that just blew people away. And again, huge turnout, 2 days of sessions. That's again, I remember distinctly speaking at that event. I was speaking with my colleague Ruth Delaney. Shout out to Ruth. We did a session on Azure and Power Platform better together. And there were a lot of amazing sessions. A lot of my colleagues, TSs, did sessions. Again, our job really was to sort of show people what's possible in the government clouds. For those of you outside the U.S. who don't know this, the United States government operates in distinct enclaves, clouds. They're separate from the clouds that the public works in. So if you're logging into a Microsoft tenant, the odds are you're in what we call the commercial cloud. But if you're in the government, you're probably using one of our government enclaves, and we have several to choose from, depending on which level of security you need. And so this event was really about showing our customers sort of those different clouds and what you could do in each cloud. And because our team builds primarily in those clouds, we have a unique way of building that trust with our customers, because a lot of times our customers will go to these big events like Power Platform Conference, and they'll see Charles Amano or Ryan Cunningham do these amazing demos and these amazing announcements of products and really cool features, and they're amazing to watch. Unfortunately, when you're working in the government cloud, you don't have all that. Our government cloud is traditionally at least 3 to 6 months behind whatever you see publicly announced. Sometimes years behind, to be honest, depending on the cloud. The more security levels you go up, the fewer features you get. And so that's a big part of what our team does. And so that's why we do this event and why we have such a huge
Mhm.
turnout, because it's really one of the only places you can go to have those conversations with people who understand those limitations and to see what is real, like what is actually possible today. And also to have conversations with our product teams who come out. Ryan Cunningham flies out to DC for this. We have a lot of amazing people from the product team. David Life, again, I could name names, but they come out. And they really make themselves available to talk to our customers and to listen to our customers, and hear what's really needed. Because I said earlier, profit is not a main concern for our customers; it's mission. And so we talk a lot about that with our customers, and our customers to our executives at Microsoft, letting them know, like, this is the kind of stuff that we need. This is the features that we want. This is what we want to do. This is what concerns us the most about this. And so that event is a sort of amazing way of bringing everybody into a room, and
Right.
having those conversations. And so it was a huge success. The following year, this past 2025, we did it again, different hotel, but again, still very big. Uh, I spoke again with Ruth. We did a sort of sequel to our session from the year before, another Azure Power Platform Better Together story. And it was great. It was a great event. Again, great turnout, great interactions. And I'm hopeful that we get to do it again. Again, this has turned into an annual thing. We're keep pushing our growth in that event, getting bigger and bigger. I hope someday that we get back to the convention center in DC. I don't know when that'll happen. I'm not making any. That's just me personal. I'm not speaking for anybody else. But I remember the good old days before COVID when we could pack that convention center in with Microsoft type people. So I would love to see that again someday.
Awesome, awesome, Jamie. Now, Jamie, talking about the DynamicsCon, like, what was your experience there?
Yeah. So DynamicsCon is put on by the folks at Dynamics User Group. Doug short. They've been doing that since COVID times. The original event was a virtual event, and every year since they've evolved it. And I believe they've been doing the in-person version for 3 or 4 years now. And last year I was honored to go speak at the event in Denver. Dynamics Con is interesting because it's all Dynamics 365, which is not my background. As I mentioned earlier when we were talking, I come from SharePoint, and that was my gateway into the Power Platform. But there's a whole nother side of the Power Platform of people who actually started with Dynamics. And so folks who started with Dynamics, the CRM, folks who have been using Dynamics GP, Dynamics Business Central. Like there's a whole nother universe of people. And so DynamicsCon is an amazing place if you are operating in one of those spaces. If you're using F&O, if you're using these other Dynamics tools like GP or BC, DynamicsCon is the place for you because it's a community of people who use those tools, and it's just and lots of partners too. Like I was amazed at how many partners exist in those spaces. Um, I was out of my depth. I'll be honest. I was there to talk about Power Platform, and while I was grateful to be there. We were outnumbered. There was a lot more people there for Dynamics, and I learned a lot. But I didn't necessarily feel like I fit in, for sure. But it's an amazing community. That community also runs a lot of local user groups. Again, you can find them through Meetup or through their website. And it's a great group. I think they do two big events every year. They've got the virtual version they do, I think, in the fall, and the in-person in the late spring, early summer. And I know this past year I didn't get to it. I think it was in Chicago. I don't know where next year's going to be. I think they rotated around. But yeah, if you're using Dynamics, it's definitely a must-go event, for sure.
Awesome, Jamie. Now, how about the experience at 365 EduCon?
So, all right. So this is interesting. So back in the day when I
I'm
worked
not
at
able to hear
Discovery, I
you.
went. Nope. Still there?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Sorry. Internet comes and goes. So back in the day when I was at Discovery, I actually went to a local event called SharePoint Fest. It was at our convention center in DC. I only could afford to go for one day. They were very gracious. They gave me a 1 day pass, and I went, and I got to see a lot of cool things, met a lot of cool people. Years later, they rebranded to 365 EduCon. And so I got to go back and speak at that event when I was working for Microsoft, and got to do a session on Power Apps there. Um, and then the next year they rebranded again, and now they are TechCon 365. So if you look TechCon 365, so it's an evolution of a brand, but they're a great group. They do 3 or 4 regional events every year, and they have one constant. They're always in Seattle every year. That's their big one. That's the big one. So that's the one that I think that most people would want to go to, especially if you want to rub elbows with Microsoft people. A lot of Microsoft people come to that. They've been to DC a few times. They didn't come to DC this year for a lot of different reasons. But next year, in soon, I think next week is Seattle, and then I think then it goes to Dallas, and then I think Atlanta. I think are the
Yeah.
next 3. And yeah, it's a great event. They're a really well-run group. It's a family-run operation. Shout out to the Wilhelms. And just it was an honor to speak at those 2 events. I don't think I'll be speaking at this year because they're not coming to DC. But I encourage people who are interested. That event is not free, but if you convince your boss to pay for it, go for it.
Right.
And if not, if you're looking to grow yourself and make an investment in yourself, definitely take a look at it. Especially look at the workshops they do. They do workshops before and after the event. They're extra. They're not included with the cost of the event, but they are full day sessions where you really get to go deep on the topic, which you don't necessarily get to do in these 1 hour sessions that you typically get at an event. So if you really want to really dig deep on really learning a technology or developing a skill set, those workshops can be immensely helpful.
That's brilliant, Jamie. And finally, wrapping it up with the experience at, the GlobalCon, Community Summit, North America.
Right, GlobalCon. I don't know that. I don't remember what year that was. That was, I think that was a virtual event. Maybe I'm not positive. There's a lot of stuff I did in the COVID times where I did things virtually, and some of those events have ceased to exist. To be totally candid, but that was again just one of those virtual events I think I participated in. I think I participated in several events that sort of sprouted up during the lockdown time period, where there were a lot of event organizers trying to figure out ways to keep the community going during COVID, and so they spun up these sort of day-long events. There was 24/7 Power Platform that, and these things still happen to some degree. There's still some of these virtual events happening. So I
Right.
think that was just one of those. I don't think that was an in-person one. I think that was one of those. Either it was one of those 24/7 events or something like that.
All
I
right.
don't remember
All
much
right,
about
Jimmy.
it. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries, Jimmy. Totally, I mean, the way you were just talking about your experience actually, gives me that feeling that I should also be part of this event and, understand, the Microsoft, ecosystem in depth. And actually, it gives me a complete roadmap now, Jimmy, thanks to you.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. I encourage everybody. We have one of the best communities in tech, and I encourage people to come out virtually or in person, whatever you can muster, and get involved. We really do welcome new voices. We encourage you to come out and share your stories with us. We want to hear from people who are using our technology. We want to help people who are trying to learn new ways of using it. And I hope to see you at events in the future. Wherever, if you see me in person, say hi. If you come drop by or one of our virtual user groups when I'm in there, say hi. I'm on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on there. And I wish everyone the best on their journey. Again, like I tell everyone, the Microsoft changed my life. Like I would not be where I am today without Microsoft technology, specifically the Power Platform. And I don't know what's next. I don't know what's going to happen. The change is the only constant in life. But I know that I'm at a place that encourages growth, encourages learning, and I'm excited to be in a community that helps me do that.
That's brilliant, Jimmy. And I could just say that, expect the best and, good things will fall in place for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yeah. Now, Jamie, like, what is your take on the Microsoft Power Platform? And would you like to, recommend the Microsoft Power Platform to our listeners?
So I should have said this at the very beginning, but I'm not speaking for Microsoft when I talk any of these questions. So sort of like, but I will say this as somebody who works at Microsoft and somebody who sells the Power Platform every day. The Power Platform is a collection of tools. It is, to be totally frank, it's a marketing term. Power Platform is a series of tools. So I'll play the game here. It's Power Apps, Power Automate, formerly Microsoft Flow. It is Power Pages. It is Copilot Studio, formerly Power Virtual Agents, and Power BI. Now, of those, Power BI actually is the oldest, and it's actually been around for longer than any of these other four. And it's not
Mhm.
technically part of my responsibility as a TS. So I don't really deal in Power BI that much. I have some very, very smart colleagues who go really deep on Power BI. So I take that one out. Copilot Studio, which is Power Virtual Agents formerly, that one is slowly being pulled away from Power Platform and its own thing. As you know, AI is the future and the present, and so that one's sort of becoming its own standalone and sort of outside the platform. It's still in, it's out, in and out. I still do a lot with the Copilot Studio, so that's still my responsibility. Power Pages is for building web pages. So if you have a need for data-driven web pages, Power Pages is awesome for that. It has a couple of great use cases. For example, if you don't want to have to license all your internal users with Power Apps licensing, you can use Power Pages. Especially for like case management scenarios where you have people submitting support tickets, things like that. It really works well for that. But obviously, it also works really well for citizen services or customer service, where you can actually build websites where people can come out, they can interact with, their data. They can submit tickets. They can research answers to questions. A lot of great ways to surface that data securely. And then obviously Power Automate is our automation tool for all things automation, and then Power Apps is a low-code app building tool. So if you're looking to build apps, all of these tools, to varying degrees, now have some level of Copilot built in.
Yep.
And what that means now is that even less than in the past, we'd say low code, you don't have to know a lot. Now it's really getting almost to the point where it's no code. It's not quite there yet, but it's very close now, where you can literally just open
Mhm.
up and
Exactly.
just describe what you want and it'll build it. In fact, in Power Apps today, in commercial, you can actually use what's called the Plan Designer. And the Plan Designer is an amazing tool, and I encourage you to go look for this. We just made some really cool announcements at Build last month, and Plan Designer actually allows you with natural language to build an entire solution. So you can just basically give it your problem statement, give it some information about the problem, maybe provide it with some sample data or some documentation, and then it'll think about it. It'll actually sort of mull it over with some deep reasoning, and then it'll actually start generating a plan that'll include a data model. It'll include a collection of apps, automations, agents. Like it'll do all of that for you, and it'll create this whole like workspace for you where you'll be able to see sort of the vision before anything gets built. And you can still interact with it before you build anything. And then when you're ready, you can say, click, and it'll start building things for you. It'll build out the data model. It'll turn that into Dataverse tables. It'll start building model-driven apps. It'll start building Canvas apps. It'll build agents. It'll do all this. So we're getting to the point now where our tooling is really opening the doors for people with no background in coding, no background in any sort of development, who can now go in and really start solving their own problems. And so our message is very clear. We really do think this is a game changer for companies and organizations, because we just don't have enough people. We don't have enough developers to answer all the workloads that we have to build for. And so AI is going to help do that. It's going to help people do more with less. It's going to be a real game changer. And you can see it today, and just imagine what it'll be like in a year from now. Like again, the rate of change is so rapid and accelerating so quickly. But yeah, I would say definitely encourage people, if they have never heard of the Power Platform, to find out what you can about it. YouTube it, Google it, sorry, Bing it,
Right.
and find information about it. And like I said, we have so much content out there. And again, for those who don't know, Microsoft, we have 2 events every year that are big events. We have Build in the spring, and we've got Ignite in the fall. Those are where we make our biggest announcements. So we just had Build, so that's for developers. So a lot of the announcements are more developer focused, but there were some other other announcements that will be relevant there. And then Ignite is our sort of for big customer event, and so that one is where we do a lot of announcements as well. So look forward to that. And of course, in between there, if you're interested in the Power Platform, and I'll make a plug here for the Power Platform conference. That happens every year in Vegas. This year it's actually going to be around Halloween, so it should be really fun to be in Vegas for Halloween. And
Yeah.
it's the event. If you're into Power Platform, it's the event to go to. I've been to every one so far. I'd hope to be back this year. And I just encourage people. It's an amazing place to be if you're interested in the Power Platform.
That's a brilliant insight on that, Jamie. Now, Jamie, would you like to give me more insight about about giving a demo? Let's say recently I just came to know this, that you gave a demo of a solution at the Microsoft Federal Biz App Summit. So how did that go about?
Just in a nutshell, demos are all about stories. The key to a good demo is to tell a good story. So if you're not well versed in storytelling, there's some amazing resources out there that learn how to tell good stories. But that's the key more than anything. While the technology is important, you want to showcase the technology. Yeah, it starts and ends with a good story. That's what's going to resonate with people, especially if you're doing speaking engagements. If you're speaking at events, they will likely not remember all the clicks and all the code and all that stuff. They will remember the story that you told. So
Exactly. Yeah.
tell a good story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jamie. Now, Jamie, before we actually conclude our podcast initiative, let's take a lighter route in the form of a rapid fire round. All this while, Jamie, we were just talking about the events that you co-organized, the events you organized, about your complete timeline and your journey and everything. Now, in the form of a rapid fire round, it's going to be more like, away from the technical side, and it's going to be more on, your likes and interest. Your likes and interest. So, Jamie, the first question to you in the rapid fire round: what is your favorite sports team of all time?
Yankees.
The New York Yankees.
Yep.
All right. That that's a good that's a good choice. Even I'm a Yankees fan myself. Yeah. And Jamie, now heading on for the next one, like, what is your favorite Indian food that you always like to try?
I am not big on spicy food these days. I've got heartburn, but butter chicken, if it's not too spicy, is my favorite for sure.
All
which
right.
maybe
Yeah.
not real Indian food. I apologize for all the Indian viewers. But in America, it's awesome.
I get the point. Yeah, yeah, totally. Like, what is your favorite holiday destination, Jamie, of all time?
Holiday destination. My wife and I have started a tradition of going to the Caribbean for Thanksgiving. So this past year we did Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and before that we did Antigua. Probably Antigua, I would say, but any sort of Caribbean destination is a beautiful way to spend time with your loved ones. And so yeah, I would say Antigua though, top of my list.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what is that favorite? What is your favorite book, and which book do you, recommend to our listeners? Like that is a must read.
I am not a reader. I'll be totally candid with you on that. I don't have the attention span to read, but I will say that you know I encourage people to I don't read his books necessarily, but there's a gentleman named Simon Sinek who does a lot of YouTube videos. He's got
Yeah.
podcasts. He does write a lot of books. I haven't read his books, but I've listened to him talk about them, and he's amazing. That would be my first choice. Would be if I was going to read something, I would read his book. I would probably do an audiobook though. I'm more of a listener than a reader.
All right, all right. Now, the final question to you, Jamie. Like, who is your favorite musical artist of all time?
Bruce Springsteen,
Bruce Springsteen. Which
the
is your favorite?
boss.
The Boss. Exactly, exactly. What's your favorite song that you always like to listen on a loop?
Uh, Probably Thunder Road is probably top of my list. I love that song. Yeah, that's probably it for me. There's a lot
All
though.
right.
He's an amazing guy. It's amazing live too. I've seen him live a few times. He's the best. So
Awesome, awesome, Jamie. So, Jamie, finally, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule and make and being part of my podcast initiative. I mean, our collaboration idea actually goes back a month exactly, and finally we made it happen, and it has transpired into this beautiful session. And thank you so much, Jamie, for this amazing insights. And I had a great time conversing with you through this medium. So, thank you so much again.
of course, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Thank you for those that made it all the way to the end of the podcast. I appreciate you, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Jamie. So, listeners, this is your host Akhil Navluri signing off. So, we will be back with another industry leader and eminent, industry leader very soon on this podcast medium. So, till then, keep listening, stay tuned. Thank you, goodbye, au revoir. Thank you.